looks like a rosé.
It looks like a very dark rosé, but it was a very dark rose-colored, and it was beautiful.
In fact, it has much color as the Sangiovese in here, which is standard red.
Yes.
But there's almost no color tannin in it.
So if you take a look at, right now y'all hop on your online and you Google or whatever you do, Google Pinot Grigio grapes in Italy, and then see if you can Google Pinot Grigio grapes in High Plains, Texas, and you're gonna see a red and kind of grayish, reddish, it's just day and night difference.
We bring winemakers from other parts of the world to our vineyard at harvest time and say, giving them the tour and saying, this here's the Pinot Grigio, and they go, you dumb rednecks, that's not Pinot Grigio, it's Pinot Noir. Like,
and what do you do?
Taste it. And they taste it and go, oh my God, this is Pinot Grigio. I'm like, yeah, we know. How did you get this color? I'm like, it's a desert. High altitude, lots of sunlight. Grapes actually color up partly from sun contact on the skin.
Sure.
So that's part of maturity in a grape cluster.
Yeah, and the, what's the term for that? That scientific term is...
that one?
We probably should both know that.
I'm always thinking diurnal shift from the high altitude desert, warm days, cool nights. That's always the one that comes to mind. But that's not sunlight from photosynthesis.
Yeah, that's what
imparts the color.
Photosynthesis, that's it.
There's still a term for it, not photosynthesis.
There is a term for it. Okay, so another cool thing about that a lot of people don't know, and I experienced this in Portugal, was the microclimates. And so, I want to talk about the climate here in Texas here and cover it a little bit. But we were on the Douro River, and we were walking and he was showing us, the grower was showing us the grapes, and he's like, okay, well, come here. And as it was you could see the Douro River, but the hill went up, and then it dropped down to this valley where this wind would blow. Well, I'm not kidding you. I was here, and no more than 5 feet behind you, it changed drastically to the point where it was so cold I had to run back 2-3 feet just to warm up again. Do you have anything like that in Texas up there where you're at, where it's like a microclimate like that at all?
No, it's not a microclimate per se, but there are still microclimates in the high plains.
Right.
The high plains being a high altitude desert, it's anything over 3,000 feet around Lubbock, Texas. And as for mountain climate you're talking about, well, out there it's so flat you can stand on the 5-gallon bucket and see the back of your own head. But the only thing between us and a cold front...
Did you get that?
The only thing between us and a cold front from Canada is a barbed wire fence. So a cold front leaves North Dakota or South Dakota, and 40 hours later it's in Texas. So we go from 80 degrees to 20 degrees just like that.
In a split second.
And when you're talking about microclimates, whenever your cold air trap basin is 10 miles wide, those little small differences actually make a difference in a vineyard. We see that. So the vineyards that are on the low end of the hill might take freeze damage, or they get flood damage when the stuff that's in the middle of the hill, and the hill is 2 feet over a mile long. That's the hill. And that's enough of a microclimate to make a difference in a small vineyard, where we're at. And then you go from where we're at in Plains, Texas to Terry County, Brownfield, Texas, which is, that county has most of the wine grapes in Texas, like 65%. They're 500 feet lower than we are. Well, 500 feet, it's so flat you can't tell it while driving, but that's a big difference weather-wise.
Right.
So there's microclimates even in the high plains where things will work and not work. But it has to do with elevation, but from freezes. So the higher elevation, later freeze, same thing with the more northern elevation. So it depends on where you go on the high plains. Certain varieties won't grow north of a certain latitude, and certain varieties won't grow above a certain elevation. We're learning all these lessons the hard way because Texas wine is still new to Texas.
Yes, but good. They're coming right.
But you get 12 years into a grape that's doing really well that you like, and you lose it all in a late freeze, that'll hurt your feelings. So you learn these lessons the hard way, and they're very expensive and painful.
I bet. So you're telling me that a few miles down the road, they're 500 feet below you?
30 miles. Yeah.
30 miles below you? And it's flat like that. Mm-hmm. And so then you're 30 feet higher. And that's...
Well, over 30 miles, it's 500 feet. It's just, such a gradual decline, you can't see it. Of course, when you can see a telephone pole go over the horizon, and it's the size of a toothpick. So part of the world is just so flat you can see forever.
Sure.
So you can't tell how much the elevation of things change, but that makes a difference as well. You don't want to plant your vineyard in the bottom of Playa Lake that's a cold air trap.
Right.
Most people don't realize that Playa Lake or cold air trap has a 15-mile-around basin. Because you can't see it.
Yeah, it's a bowl.
It's a big one.
So it can get too cold or too hot there.
Usually too cold, that's the issue. Mainly.
Right. Okay. And so if it's 80 degrees in comfort, what would it be over there?
This time of year, depends on the day.
Right.
But typically with the high plains, because it's also almost no humidity being a desert, our average humidity for the year there is about 7%. Where we're here in Tomball, average humidity is 92, 94%. Comfort's around 40 to 60% for the year. So the wettest day on the high plains is the day it rains, and that's not really a joke. The day it rains, humidity might hit 40-something%.
But it burns off pretty quick.
Generally. Or it's gone in the 40-mile-an-hour wind, just like that.
It takes it off.
Oh, yeah.
So, a lot of
evaporation rate where we're at in the high plains is 18 feet per year. So if you had a pool that was 20 feet deep and you filled it up with water January 1, when you came back January 1 the next year, there'd be 2 feet left, and it'd be pretty stinky.
Wow, that quick. Well, it is desert. It gets pretty hot up there.
So to water a crop, you have to put down 2 inches to get 1 to even make it in the ground, kind of thing.
How do you water your how does your irrigation?
All of our vineyards are under drip irrigation, and it's semi-permanent drip that gets ripped into the middle of the row. So while we're watering, any weeds that come up, we can knock down with the plow because it's in the middle where you don't want weeds coming up. But again, that's seasonal. In the fall, we plant a cover crop in the vineyard to keep the dirt from blowing away all winter, hopefully. So hopefully we get a little bit of a cover crop going that stays until springtime. And when bud break's coming around, we can terminate it or plow it under for extra nitrogen in the soil and start the growing season.
What do you throw on it? Just what do you mean throw over a grow, like a growth?
Like winter rye, something that'll grow in the winter time and hold the dirt down. That's ultimately the goal.
And you put that down there and plant it on purpose?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because soil erosion from wind in the part of the world that I'm from is a huge problem.
Okay.
Something this part of Texas doesn't understand. Water erosion when you get 40 inches of rain, people out here understand. For us, it's wind erosion when you have a 60-mile-an-hour wind. If you put a fence up in your yard real close and you're next to a field that's blowing sand, you'll have 6 feet of dirt on the backside of your fence after a couple of days.
Got it.
Like, it's not fun. And that's, well, on bad years, that's what can happen. So same thing in a vineyard.
Okay.
You want to hold the dirt down and try to keep it from moving from other places.
So
And same problem, you want to try and keep that dirt from coming in, or if sand starts blowing into the vineyard because you have a cover crop, you go out there with the bucket on a tractor and you start dragging sand out to get the row back down to where it's supposed to. That happens occasionally too.
So all farmers all over the world, they have their issues. It's usually cold or rain or hail. That's really what you hear about that. It's agriculture issue.
We
clearly
pray to the weather gods and sacrifice animals regularly. Sometimes small children.
Not really, but it's a joke. He's got a funny sense of humor, but so it seems to me that I've never heard of that anywhere else. Is that I guess that could be a problem anywhere in the world.
Absolutely.
If it's
a problem everywhere.
That kind of
they just don't have the same problems.
No, I'm talking about. So yeah, I guess where I was going with that was like, let's look at the issues you have here with farming here in High Plains. How would you compare that to maybe
other regions of the world that have the same problem as we do? Rioja, Spain, desert side of the Pyrenees Mountains.
Okay.
They get those Santa Ana winds, the hot winds off of the mountain you were talking about just a minute ago. Or the Coonawarra in Australia. And it's those hot winds coming off of the desert that can just sap the moisture out of everything. Well, for us in the High Plains, it's the desert winds coming off of the back sides of the Rocky Mountains that are all the way over in, New Mexico, Utah.
When I was in South Africa,
a long ways away.
Right. Well, when I was in South Africa, they had this thing called a berg wind, and it was this.
Same difference.
It was this coming down from northern Africa, and it was, they didn't have where I lived. They didn't have dryer, but they had a wash machine. Well, I mean, I needed to wash clothes, and the lady I rented from, she's like, a bird wind's going coming. Just go ahead and put your clothes out. They'll be bone dry by the morning. And she was not kidding. I mean, so that's the first time I experienced a berg wind. So that's kind of what you're talking about, I think.
Same difference, yeah.
That hot wind come there, or it's just a wind. It's not so hot in it's just
Well,
wind.
it is.
It's hot and fast.
Well, we usually have over 100 days of more than 100-degree weather in the high plains. That's pretty normal. But usually it's closer to 112, 114 because of the low humidity. But you can wander off into the shade and cool off so fast you can take a nap. Even though it's still 100 degrees outside, your body's evaporative cooling works well.
Right.
Which is also not what people from this part of the world are used to. This part of the world, you get out of the shower and it feels like somebody hit you in the face with a wet towel anyway.
Yeah. Now, yes. Yes. It is humid here in Texas. All right, so that's pretty interesting. So we've got the 2025s coming. That's probably, you just finished those.
A long ways off for us.
You
2025 is the vintage the grapes are harvested.
Yes. So let's back up to what's coming out now. What vintage is coming out now? When did you harvest those grapes?
Well, 2025 will be harvested anywhere from August to October this year. It's just now 2025.
Right. So
2024s that were harvested are just now like finishing fermentation and things and getting put into barrels to start aging.
and they'll be the 2024.
So they might have been racked once or twice at this point. Like they're just getting started. I don't even taste a wine until it's at least a year in.
So you're 2 years out basically from
Generally.
from harvest to bottle.
It depends on the vintage, but anywhere from 18 months at a minimum, at least on reds. Whites, you can turn around anywhere from 4 months to 18 months. The reds, you're at a minimum of 18 months typically to 30, 34, 60 months even maybe on some.
Depends on what it is.
Depends on the year.
So what are you looking forward to this year? What's good? Which one of your wines do you think are going to be your best ones?
That's coming out.
That's the ones that's coming. The new vintage coming out. The 2025s aren't out yet. We've only got 20 still.
Oh yeah, those are years away. That 2021 Cabernet Sauvignon that's sitting up there, I think is one of the best wines that I've ever made. And I don't know if I can do it again because the weather gods cooperated that year and we're dependent on the